Chief Auto Parts Nationals. Speeds in excess of 280 miles per hour, covering the quarter-mile distance in less than 6 seconds. Drag racing from the NHRA. 14 races around the United States and Canada each year make up the NHRA World Championship Series. Just 1 week ago, we were in the eastern Pennsylvania farm country around Reading at the beautiful Maple Grove Raceway for the 3rd annual running of the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals. Dick LaHaye of Lansing, Michigan, was able to gain a few points on the World Championship Series leader Joe Amato as LaHaye defeated Gary Ormsby in the final of Top Fuel Eliminator. For the first time this year, 34-year-old Mark Oswald was in the winner's circle. He drove the Candies and Hughes T-Bird funny car to victory over John Force. This was the 2nd straight Keystone Nationals victory for Oswald. The victory streak of Bob Glidden continues, with the Ford Thunderbird driver winning his 57th NHRA National Event title, defeating Tony Christian in the final. This was the first ever final round appearance for 37-year-old Christian from Sarasota, Florida. Today we have moved considerably southwest of Pennsylvania. The NHRA National Event Trail has brought us to a town just outside of Dallas. This massive racing facility, built by funny car driver Billy Meyer, has been carved out of the farmland. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and welcome to the 2nd annual Chief Auto Parts Nationals at the Texas Motorplex near Ennis, about 35 miles south of downtown Dallas. As you may recall from our last television program from the Motorplex, this track has the reputation of being the quickest and fastest in the country. Well, that was enhanced all during qualifying. In Top Fuel, Joe Amato set the racing world abuzz with the quickest and fastest times in history, 5.09 second elapsed time at over 287 miles an hour. However, Gene Snow of Fort Worth, Texas, brought a new race car to the Chief Nationals on its 2nd full run down the quarter mile. Snow blasted a 5.08 second elapsed time, the best ever.
I can't hardly believe it. I mean, this is the only 2nd run on this brand new car. My crew, Gene Gaddy, that built the car, I can't believe it. It's wonderful. Yay, great!
On the speed side of the ledger, another Texan, Eddie Hill, was leaving his mark on the record book. Hill broke the official record formerly held by Amato, then performed the required 1% backup run and finished qualifying as the new record holder at 283.28 miles an hour. In funny car, John Force set and backed up a new national record at 5.39 seconds, but then had to watch that best ever performance be exceeded by Ed McCulloch, who took his Oldsmobile-bodied car to a time of 5.36 seconds. The fiberglass-bodied funny cars received their share of attention from the fans of fast speeds. Mike Dunn drove Joe Pisano's Oldsmobile to the first ever 280-mile-an-hour clocking for a new national record. Pro stock qualifying in the record book was battered by Bob Glidden and his remarkable Ford Thunderbird. Bob had a backed-up clocking of 7.35 seconds for the new mark. So at the start of eliminations today, everybody was ready for more astonishing performances. But drag racing, if anything, is not predictable. For that story, here's Steve Evans.
Well, Dave, as we have seen many times, qualifying is one thing. Eliminations, well, that's a different matter. And after first-round action this morning, a lot of those record-setting drivers found this pit road to be a boulevard of broken dreams. It was Dick LaHaye who had his hopes shattered first. Too much clutch, too much horsepower, whatever. Maybe the racetrack not quite as good as it had been, but he smoked the tires. That allowed Glenn Nickress to upset him. And when I talked to Dick, it was as if he just didn't want to accept the situation. Dick LaHaye muttered something like unbelievable when he took his helmet off, and the worst thing that could happen has happened.
Yeah, smoked the tires as close as I can tell. I mean, it was all over the racetrack, and I just shut it off.
Cold track, probably.
It's not the same racetrack as it was yesterday or the day before.
As far as the World Championship is concerned, you have to hope that Amato goes out this round along with you.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't, I mean, this is too close, you know, and it's a bad situation right now.
Well, Dick LaHaye got his wish. Joe Amato left the starting line hard. The car immediately went into a terrible vibration. The parachute fell out. The motor started to go away. And when I talked to Joe after being defeated by Jack Ostrander, it was obvious sitting in front of the car. He had no idea what had happened. Well, Joe Amato sitting in the car in the staging lane sees Dick LaHaye defeated, thinks, all right, the door is open, and then disaster strikes here as well.
Yeah, Steve, when I saw him smoke the tires and lose, I said, now's our chance. Don't be dumb and just do everything cool. And the car went out there and smoked the tires. And I tried to pedal it once, it caught, and it went about 50 feet, and I was still with him. I thought I had a good chance, but then it smoked the tires again, and then it was history.
It looked like even the parachute might have fallen.
No.
That was the whole
Parachute came out. That's what caused about everything, I think, Joe. Like pulling an anchor.
I didn't really know that till now, Steve.
Well, the quickest driver of them all, Gene Snow, he got to watch Amato make his mistakes in LaHaye. The crew tried to make some adjustments to that car, but Gene Snow was all over the racetrack. He, too, could not find traction. Michael Brotherton scored the upset. I talked to Snow when the smoke had cleared. So what really did happen up there?
Trying to go too quick.
Going to back up that record?
Well, yeah, I just thought it would do it. The car didn't even carry the wheels at all yesterday, and there's 3 half nuts more on the clutch, and that's it.
Sorry to see you out.
Yeah, thank you. We are, too.
Well, the bad news continued in the first round of funny car eliminations for the super quick and the ultra fast. John Force, too much horsepower. Even though he'd set the record at 5:39, he just blazed the tires. But John did not blame the racetrack. Well, the facial expression on John Force says it all. The new record holder's out round 1, blazed the tires.
Well, that's something. I don't think it's the track conditions. I think it's just us. Something's wrong mechanically, must be. Did everything we could. Tried to, softest ever tried to leave, and it wouldn't leave. But I hope the record holds for the day, because I think we've earned that.
You definitely have. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Well, the quick was down and the fast was to follow. Mike Dunn had a terrible engine explosion. Oil down his lane allowed Tom Hoover to get to the finish line first. But Mike Dunn, the youngster from California, took the news better than the others. The smoke still pouring from the motor of the Joe Paisano Mike Dunn car. And Mike, it almost seems like a curse to have set a record at this race. He set the record over 280 and kaboom.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. Went out there and shook, and I pedaled it, and I thought we could probably still drive around them, but then the oil came inside the car, and I've been through enough of them. I don't need any more, so I figured save it for the next race.
Before it caught on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through enough of them, right, Steve?
Indeed, but congratulations. 280 miles an hour, a tremendous achievement.
Thank you, yeah. The JP1 Oldsmobile ran real good all weekend. We're just sorry we couldn't, won this race, but that's the way it goes.
Mike Dunn.
A tough break for Mike Dunn, but just one of many surprises in the first round of competition at the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. A huge crowd, estimated at just under 50,000 people, has jammed into the Texas Motorplex for this event, and we're set to go in round number 2 of Top Fuel Eliminator. In the far lane of the track, that's Mike Brotherton. In the near lane is Glenn Micris. We saw him in round number 1 pull off a big upset as Micris defeated Dick LaHaye. Another big upset came from Mike Brotherton out of Oklahoma when he defeated Gene Snow. Brotherton having problems on the burnout. He pulls off to the side, and that streak coming out behind the car is oil. Obviously, engine problems besetting Mike Brotherton. That gives Glenn Micris driving Greg Badger's car a single run. He advances into the semifinals, and what a day for Micris. He shuts it off as he passes the disabled car of Mike Brotherton. Micris records only a 6.31 second elapsed time at 150 miles an hour, but he is into the semifinal. What a disappointment for Mike Brotherton as that engine letting go spread oil all over the racetrack. Lots of work for the NHRA Safety Safari. The 1987 Chief Auto Parts Nationals is being brought to you by Goodyear. The Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. And by Fram Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. Waiting for her chance at this racetrack is Shirley Muldowney. More Top Fuel round number 2 racing in just a moment. The Parts Nationals at the Texas Motorplex near Ennis, Texas. Shirley Muldowney is guiding her car toward a puddle of water. That'll coat those rear slicks with water. She stands on the throttle. Thunder and smoke, the burnout of a Top Fuel dragster. Here's Eddie Hill, Shirley's competition in this second round race. Let's go to Steve with a surprise semifinalist.
Well, a new face to our Diamond P Sports cameras, David Glenn Micros semifinal bell. I believe that's the best you've done.
Yeah, the 535 today we ran was the best we've ever run with the car itself. And it's kind of like we didn't want to run that run just to save parts.
I mean, it seems like the guys that have taken the more conservative approach are succeeding here today, as opposed to the Amatos, LaHaye's, and so forth.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's trying to overpower the racetrack. I mean, it was good the other day, but as the day goes on, it seems like maybe it's going away.
The new national speed record holder, Eddie Hill, at the wheel of the Lone Star Racing entry out of Wichita Falls, Texas, defeated Dan Pastorini in the first round. Shirley Muldowney continued the longtime rivalry with Connie Coletta in her first round race. In that race, she was not using the canopy over the cockpit on her dragster. It blew off during qualifying. Shirley, in the far lane of the track, ran over 284 miles an hour.
A tremendous job of driving by Shirley Muldowney. The elapsed time in the 520s, but the speed, 284.
It was really fast. I felt the wind because the bubble is no longer there, and that was definitely an improvement. But it shook on me, and it moved around, and I lifted right out of the throttle and back in it. And I ran a 27, so.
The horsepower it takes to run 284 tells your guys you can run in the teens with everybody else.
Absolutely, and it's definitely capable of an O. Our time has come, I think.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Steve.
Shirley expressed a lot of confidence in her Performance Automotive Wholesale Special. She's in the far lane of the racetrack. In the near lane, it's Eddie Hill. And Shirley red light. She leaves the starting line too soon. That disqualifies her. And Eddie Hill, in one of the quickest runs of his career, 5.15 seconds. His speed over 283 miles an hour. Absolutely incredible performances. This is Darrell Gwynn at the wheel of the longest dragster in competition. He is racing against Frank Bradley. Driving the Newman Farm Special, Bradley had a single in the first round when Junior Kaiser was unable to answer the call. Darrell Gwynn raced against Earl Whiting in the first round. Gwynn has reverted back to an engine combination he used a year ago at this racetrack. At that time, he established a new national record, and it was obvious in the first round race that that combination still worked as Gwynn drove the Budweiser Special to a new mark.
Out of the car, the new record holder, Darrell Gwynn, 5:12. You already had a backup. It's in the book.
Well, here we are a year later setting records. We all know that don't count, Steve. We're here to win the race. We blew the dust off all these motors. We hadn't been running 6 months, and we're real happy. The crew needed this. I needed this. This Bud's for you.
Back to round number 2 action in Top Fuel. Frank Bradley in the far lane. In the near lane is Darrell Gwynn. Both cars set. Bradley, a bit of smoke off the tires. And Gwynn through with a 5.16 second elapsed time, 278 miles an hour. Bradley losing at a 5:31. Gwynn advances to the semifinals. Our next pair, the engine started approach the water box. This is the Castrol GTX Special of Gary Ormsby. Racing against Ormsby is Jack Ostrander out of Pontiac, Michigan. In the first round, Ostrander got the break of a lifetime. As you saw, Joe Amato's car shook violently, the parachute fell out, and Ostrander ran his best ever 5:25 to take the win. Gary Ormsby out of Roseville, California, defeated rookie Dan Fitzgerald in the first round. Crew Chief Lee Beard out in front of the car of Gary Ormsby, giving directions to the crew and to his driver, a final check of the engine, and both drivers now approach the starting line. Across that concrete surface stretch infrared beams. As the wheels of the race cars roll into those beams, it turns on lights on the Christmas tree starting device, indicating the drivers are ready. A great start. wins at 5.22 seconds, his speed over 280 miles an hour. That sets up our semifinal pairings. It'll be Darrell Gwynn against Gary Ormsby. Gwynn has lane choice by virtue of the quicker elapsed time in round number 2. The other pairing finds surprising Glenn Mikers against the crowd favorite, Eddie Hill. Hill has the lane choice. Back in the pit area, win or lose, Shirley Muldowney is still a crowd favorite. We'll be coming back with more racing action from the Chief Auto Parts Nationals in just a moment. Steve Evans, and we're at the Texas Motorplex near Ennis, Texas for the 2nd annual running of the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. Clear and cool, a gorgeous Texas fall day, and that has contributed to this huge crowd, the 2nd largest one-day crowd in NHRA history. It's time now for round number 2 of Pro Stock Eliminator. The Chevy Camaro of Jerry Ekman out of Ventura, California, racing against the Pontiac Firebird of Joe Sway. In the first round of competition, Ekman, driving Bill Orndorff's car, defeated Stan Mizell, while Joe Sway defeated the runner-up at the most recent NHRA event, the Keystone Nationals. That was Tony Christian. The burnouts are over, both drivers coming into the staging beams. Ekman in the far lane, Sway in the near lane. You can hear these race engines build the RPM, and a great start for Ekman. Ekman, 7.44 seconds, 185 miles an hour, moves into the semifinals. On the starting line, our next pair set to go. This is the Nationwide Auto Parts Special of Butch Leal. It's a Pontiac Firebird going off against an Oldsmobile Forenza, number 2 last season, Warren Johnson. Steve?
Well, already the winner of the Summer Nationals earlier this year, Jerry Ekman, the Camaro is flying. A 7:45, a nice win.
Yeah, it was. I was hoping to be a little better than that because I probably have to race WJ next round. I think he's got a little better. He'll have lane choice. It was a good run until I got into 3rd and started to move around a little bit, but I was a little bit ahead and I didn't want to lift, and I was in control, so that's what you got to do to win.
Butch Leal has been a winner 3 times thus far this season on the NHRA National Event Trail. In round number 1 here today, he defeated Don Kuntz in the Oldsmobile. Warren Johnson drove his car to victory in round number 1, defeating the Pontiac of Lee Dean. Both cars powered by 500 cubic inch engines running on race gasoline through 2 4-barrel carburetors. Very sophisticated race cars. The Mr. Goodrich Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson goes down to defeat by a red light. WJ anticipated the start. He left too soon, automatically giving the win to Leal at 7.43 seconds. His speed over 186 miles an hour. This is the Chevy Camaro of Reed Wisden. This late model Camaro is matched against the latest car out of Chevrolet to grace the Pro Stock competition ranks. Joe Lapone, driving the Joe Paper Chevy Beretta, defeated Darrell Alderman in the first round. Meantime, Reed Wisden, a longtime racer out of the Atlanta, Georgia area, defeated Center Reach, New York, Kenny Delco. Both drivers wanting an advantage off the starting line, concentrating intently, and a red light start for Reed Wisden. The win automatically goes to Joe Lapone. He'll advance to the semifinals. Lapone's elapsed time 7.48 seconds, but back on the starting line, that bright red light showing for Reed Wisden, indicating instant disqualification. He left that starting line too soon. Here's Bruce Allen driving the Levi Garrett Chevy Beretta out of the team of Rare and Morrison. This Texas crowd is cheering for their hometown favorites. They're based in Arlington, but they've got their work cut out for them. They're racing against Bob Glidden for the 19th race in a row. He was the number 1 qualifier. He set a new national record, and in the first round defeated Nick Nicolas. Bruce Allen, in his first round race, defeated Jerry Haas at the wheel of Harold Whitmore's Pontiac. This was the closest Pro Stock field ever. Only 11/100ths of a second separating the 16 cars that started competition today. A great start for both drivers. Glidden pulls out to the lead at the start and holds it all the way through. Glidden 7.37 seconds, a losing time of 7:42. A close race, between Bob Glidden and Bruce Allen. That sets up the semifinal race. Another Ford versus Chevrolet battle. Glidden against Lafone, Bob having the lane choice. The other pair, Jerry Ekman against Butch Leal, with Leal having the lane choice in that race. Back in the pit area, work going on Gary Ormsby's top fuel dragster. This is the normal between rounds maintenance. When the engine is totally disassembled, each part is inspected, checked, and if necessary, replaced. Back on the starting line, Funny Car Eliminator round 2. John Martin, driving the Oldsmobile-bodied car, is racing against the Pontiac of Don Prudhomme. In his first round race, Don Prudhomme defeated Johnny West, and in doing so, drove the Skoal Bandit to an elapsed time of 5.49 seconds. For John Martin, it has been a great weekend thus far. In the first round, he took the measure of the Australian driver, Graham Cowan. The Jam Air Special of Martin is based in San Dimas, California. Granada Hills has been the longtime home of Don Prudhomme. Both drivers into the staging beam. And Martin's got a whole shot, an advantage off the starting line, and it goes up in smoke. He almost loses control, and Prudhomme wins the race, 5.56 seconds. His speed, 258 miles an hour. In Darrell Gwynn's pit area, the crew getting that racing engine ready for the match against Gary Ormsby coming up just a bit later. We'll be back in a moment with more funny car racing from the Chief Auto Parts National. At the Texas Motorplex near Ennis, Texas, we're in round number 2 of Funny Car Eliminator. McCulloch at the wheel of the Miller American Oldsmobile is the #1 qualifier and has got the national record if he can back it up. He's racing Mark Oswald. Oswald, the most recent winner on the NHRA National Event Tour when he took home the Keystone Nationals title at Maple Grove, Pennsylvania. In the first round here, he ran 5.42 seconds to defeat Eric Reed. McCulloch ran a 5.49 second elapsed time, defeating track owner Billy Meyer. The quicker time gives Oswald the choice of lanes, and Mark put the Motorcraft Thunderbird in the lane nearest the camera, feeling the far lane where crew chief Bernie Federley gives final instructions to Ed McCulloch may be just a little bit suspect because of a previous oil down. Both drivers staging very carefully. A great start from McCulloch. A close race, and by 1 car length, Ed McCulloch defeats Mark Oswald. His elapsed time, 5.48 seconds. Oswald very close at 5.52. At the starting line, here's the Bud King. Kenny Bernstein is racing against the Champion Auto Store Special out of Maple Grove, Minnesota. This is Tom Hoover. Lane choice going to Bernstein by a tremendous amount. He ran 5.42 in the first round. Hoover had a 5.74. Steve?
Ed McCulloch, not at all intimidated by what he saw his competitors go through in that far lane. A beautiful 5.48. Nice driving.
Well, thank you, Steve. You know, we had to run through the oil down there, but, you know, Bernie and Corey Lee set this thing up right, and, you know, we got down through there. What Mark run?
He ran a 52. It was a good drag race. You just can't go in timid no matter what the conditions are anymore.
Well, you know, look at the cars out here. You take the top, you know, 6, 8 cars. I mean, it's going to be a drag race. I don't care who you've got. And I mean, you know, we got by Mark this time. You know, it looks like we'll go, if Bernstein wins this round, which it looks like he probably will, we'll go to Bernstein next. You know, you got to beat them all sooner or later.
One at a time.
Thanks, Steve.
Ed McCulloch obviously proud of the efforts of his crew headed by Bernie Federley. Bernstein and the Buick LeSabre-bodied car is the 2-time world champion headed to his 3rd consecutive world title. Tom Hoover actually finished qualifying in the number 17 spot. He got into the first round of competition as an alternate when this man, Tim Gross of Saugus, California, ran into some problems in qualifying. First, there was was smoke, then there was fire and a gigantic explosion. Tim Gross kept the car under control. He drove it away from the guardrail as the flames continued to burn. The NHRA safety safari was rolling before Gross ever brought the car to a stop. Let's look again in slow motion, and you can see exactly what Tim Gross went through. First a bit of smoke, then the explosion and fire. An incredible supercharger explosion. You can see the force of it just shuddering the entire car. The ball of flame fed by the oil and fuel out of that racing engine built up underneath the race car. The parachute attempted to slow the flaming vehicle, while inside the cockpit, the onboard fire extinguishing system keeping Gross free of flame.
Did a terrific job of controlling that car.
Well, I've been through enough of them.
You know, Billy Meyer, being a racer himself, engineered a lot of shutdown area into this track, and that helped you in this case.
And I'll tell you something else, too, that really works out good. There's so much white guardrail wall out there. I just kept getting glimpses of where the wall was, and I kept trying to keep myself in position in the middle of the track. But scrub off what speed I could. Brakes went away immediately, so I didn't even know if the chutes were even being effective or not.
Sorry to see the misfortune, really.
Tom Hoover, coming into the first round of competition as a result of Gross's engine explosion, had to break that first round when Mike Dunn lost a motor. And Hoover smokes the tires. Kenny Bernstein heads down track, uses a lot of his lane, but drives through to a great elapsed time. Bernstein, 5.44 seconds. His speed over 258 miles an hour. Tom Hoover's day is over. As Hoover coasts through the track, our next pair of funny cars have fired and approaching the burnout area. From Dallas, Texas comes the Kodiak Blue Max, driven by Raymond Beadle. From Columbus, Ohio, a construction engineer by trade, a three-time national event winner, Jim Head at the wheel of the Oldsmobile. Number one, we saw Jim Head run 5.56 seconds when he defeated a tire-smoking John Force. For Raymond Beadle, his first round time was off pace just a little bit. Good enough, though, to defeat Jerry Caminito to advance to round number two. The lane choice going to Head. Jim is taking the lane nearest the camera. Beadle out of Dallas, Texas, certainly a favorite with this huge crowd on hand today. Both cars completing staging. A green light start. Head smokes the tires, Beadle smokes the tires, and Beadle continues on. Beadle wins the race. 5.81 seconds to a losing 8.89. Not aesthetically as beautiful as Beadle might like, but he really doesn't care because it advances him to the semifinals to race Don Prudhomme, where Prudhomme has the lane choice. In the other pair of the semifinal round, a classic matchup between Ed McCulloch and Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein holding the choice of lanes. In the Prudhomme pit area, the crew hard at work, getting Don's car ready for the next round race against Raymond Beadle. Top Fuel semifinal action coming up next from the Texas Motorplex. Annual Chief Auto Parts Nationals. This huge crowd is certainly enjoying their day in the Texas sunshine. And the racers on this all-concrete racing service are certainly enjoying the performance levels they have attained. Gary Ormsby getting the directions of take it to the starting line from his crew chief Lee Beard. On the far side of the track, it is Darrell Gwynn, receiving the same instructions from his dad and crew chief Jerry Gwynn. The crowd on their feet in anticipation of this semifinal race in Top Fuel Eliminator. The difference in front wheel and tire combinations is obvious. Gwynn with the very small ones, the more conventional sized on Ormsby's car. And Gwynn with a tremendous start. Gwynn blasts out a win and a new national record, 5.09 seconds at 281 miles an hour. Ormsby was so close at a 5:27 at over 280. The surprising Glenn Mikers. Driving Greg Badger's car is in this semifinal round against Wichita Falls, Texas, on the Texan Eddie Hill. Hill has already established the national speed record at this event. Steve?
You want to see a young driver's face light up? Darrell Gwynn, 5.09.
All right. I'll tell you what. I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm ecstatic.
The tower just did the math on it. That is a new record. Your 12 exit out.
5:09. I'll tell you what.
You knew it was good.
I bet you there's people standing in line to kick my tail after not changing these motor before. I'll tell you, especially my whole crew, and I'm just pleased to be a part of this whole deal.
For any racer, it's tough to think he's going backwards, but sometimes that's what you have to do.
That's right. You know, all the stuff that we learned from this motor 6 months ago is what we put into the motor that we had been running. Now we go back to this thing that makes us look like a fool, actually.
Well, I'll let him celebrate with his crew. The final round is coming up for the new record holder.
Steve, sometimes it's very difficult to determine exactly what is the right combination. The one Darrell Gwynn has today is sure working strong. On the far side of the racetrack is Eddie Hill. He has seen a 5.09 second elapsed time in that lane. Nearest the camera is Glenn Mikers. This the furthest in competition that Mikers has ever been. And Eddie Hill streaks ahead. And there it is, another 5.09 second elapsed time. And it's another new national record for Eddie Hill at over 285 miles an hour. That sets up our final. Hill against Gwynn. Gwynn having the choice of lane by just a few thousandths of a second. This crowd of Texans waving on as the crew for Eddie Hill heads down track to pick him up. Steve's with him.
Just got word that Gwynn has the lane choice by a couple of thousandths.
Well, whatever. We got down the left lane good last time. Maybe we can do it again. Going to be an interesting final, huh?
I don't think I have to tell anybody who the Texas fans here will be riding with.
It's 3 times we set the national speed record this weekend. Can you believe it?
I saw it. I have to believe it.
It's cost us 1 piston so far. Bill Bishop sure bought us some good parts.
Indeed he did. Bill Bishop, the man who has come to this team's aid. And I'll tell you, Ursi Hill, she's going to be one excited lady.
Bill Bishop and Texas Auto Color, one of the big reasons why Eddie Hill gave up a 20-year career as a drag boat racer where he also held the national record to return to the sport of asphalt drag racing. Pro Stock semifinals coming up next. Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're at the Texas Motorplex. It's time now for semifinal action in Pro Stock Eliminator. The factory hot rods. Jerry Ekman in the lane nearest the camera at the wheel of Bill Orndorff's Pontiac. Another Pontiac alongside of him in the far lane. That is Butch Leal from Blacklick, Ohio. Leal the last to stage. Of the Chief Nationals. His elapsed time 7.42 seconds. His speed 186 miles an hour. Ekman not far behind. His time a 7:46. The Motorcraft T-Bird of Bob Glidden heating up the tires. Coming out of that water box just a little bit sideways. Against him, one of the best of the Chevrolets. This is Joe Lapone at the wheel of the all-new Chevy Beretta. Glidden with a 7:37 in the previous round has the choice of lanes. He takes the far lane. Steve?
Well, Butch Leal, you were away by a fender, but you really didn't need a whole shot. You outran him, a 7:42 to a 46.
Well, that was a good race. Jerry ran within 100th of me last run, and I got lane choice, and I particularly think the right lane's a taste better. And as you know, Bob's getting ready to run, and I'm sure he'll run another 30, so I'll be stuck in the left lane now in the final. But anything can happen, Steve.
Can you scratch up a 30 somewhere?
I'm trying to real hard. We've been back and we're changing transmissions and thinking about changing the rear end to change the ratio here for this track, because that spun real hard in second. But I don't know, Steve. I hope so. That Ford's awful fast.
Okay, let's go back to the starting line, Dave McClelland. Let's just see who will race Butch Leal in the final.
Steve Glidden is into the pre-stage beam. So is Joe Lapone. Now Glidden stages first. There's Lapone and a green light start. And by just about a car length, Bob Glidden goes into the finals, and Butch Leal could be the predictor of the day. 7:37, his speed over 188 miles an hour. The final round, the Ford of Bob Glidden against the Pontiac of Butch Leal. Bob Glidden having the choice of lane. In the pit area, crew chief Dale Armstrong putting the finishing touches on the cylinder head for Kenny Bernstein's race engine. We'll be seeing the semifinals of Funny Car Eliminator a little bit later. Let's go to Steve.
Bob Glidden giving himself a little hand down here. Another 7:30, 7:37.
That was a little better run. I don't know what Joe ran. It was a very good race. I'll tell you, this pro stock deal is tight.
You needed some horsepower on that one.
I needed something. I looked over when I pulled high gear, and Joe was nose to nose. So I don't know how close it was at the finish line, but it was a great race.
It was indeed. You got the win like that. What counts? And you go to the final round. This racetrack been good to you?
This racetrack has been good to me, except Joe did beat us at the Western All-Star race. The next guy, you know how Butch operates on the starting line.
Real well.
So do I.
The gauntlet has been thrown there, Mr. Leal.
Challenges being hurled by Bob Glidden. Don't forget, coming up October 29th through November 1st, it is the Winston Finals at the LA County Fairgrounds in California. Make plans now to attend. We'll be back in just a moment. On Prudhomme in the near lane, Raymond Beadle, the Blue Max in the far lane, as this is the semifinal round of action at the second annual Chief Auto Parts National. For Beadle, this has been one of those up and down weekends. He put together an excellent run to qualify very well, but has been having difficulty doing that with consistency. His new crew chief, Rick Johnson, checking the gauges inside the car, making sure all is okay. For Prudhomme, it's been a great weekend. His 5:40 elapsed times have been the best of his career in a funny car. A great start for Beadle. He's got the advantage. And it pays off as Raymond Beadle upsets Don Prudhomme. And look at the time, 5.58 seconds at 254 miles an hour. Prudhomme ran a quicker 5:53, but as we watch again, look how much of an advantage Raymond Beadle got at the start. As they headed down track, he continued to hold the lead, but Prudhomme was nibbling away at that lead until at the finish line, just a wheel length.
Well, Rick Johnson and the crew has done a great job of getting the Blue Max ready since the departure of crew chief Dale Emery. But I'll tell you, this man won that race, Raymond Beadle. Your 5:58 beat his quicker 5:53.
Well, good. I mean, we was awful pumped up and snaking him. I've had some good races over the years. I don't wish him any bad luck, but we're just glad to be in the final.
Looked like you two got a little close together past the finish line.
Yeah, well, he come over in my lane. He crossed the center line, so.
Well, his car, he had some problems at Maple Grove. It tends to want to just turn on him, I guess.
Well, I've been there here, so this track's awful tight, so we'll have to find out. Glad we won, though.
The choice of lanes in this race goes to Kenny Bernstein, and he takes the lane nearest the camera. In the far lane is Ed McCulloch. McCulloch has been absolutely brilliant. He has got one leg up on the record. He has broken it at a 5.36 second elapsed time, but he needs to run within 1% of that time to back it up and make it an official NHRA national record. McCulloch is pre-staged, waiting on Bernstein. Now they both creep into the staging beams. A good start for both drivers. And McCulloch pulls away to win and go into the finals against Raymond Beadle. 5.43 seconds. His speed over 271 miles an hour. Bernstein a 5:49. They were even off the starting line. The wheels up on McCulloch's car in the far lane. As he began his march towards the finish line, McCulloch, with a strong top-end charge, pulled ahead of Bernstein and stayed there by more than 2 car lengths.
Well, it's obvious that this team just threw caution to the wind, even though they didn't have lane choice. 5:43, you drilled him.
You know, we've had a tough day today. We've had all the hitters on our side. To beat Kenny Bernstein, it's been a long time coming, but just outrun him. I tell you, our Miller American Olds Forenza funny car. We just beat the boys, and I'm proud.
What a drag race, a 43 to his 49. Did you ever see him?
Actually, when we left the starting line, I could see his fender. You know, it was right there. The thing went out there and just kept on pulling, and we got by him.
So, Steve, the finals are set. It is Ed McCulloch against Raymond Beadle, and that 5:43 definitely gives McCulloch the choice of lane. Pushing into the staging lanes is Butch Leal and his Pontiac. He is racing Bob Glidden in the Ford in the finals of Pro Stock Eliminator, coming up next at the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. Parts Nationals in Eddie Hill's pit area. The work just about completed, getting that car ready for the final round where he will be racing against 25-year-old Darrell Quinn. In Darrell's pits, they're starting the engine. Their work is finished. They just want to make sure everything is right. They shut it off and will be bringing it to the line in a few moments. On the line right now is the final for Pro Stock Eliminator. Bob Glidden in the Ford Thunderbird took the far lane. He had the choice of lanes based on a lower elapsed time. That puts Butch Leal in the lane nearest the camera. The thing to watch on Leal, and as Bob Glidden referred to it, he's pretty good too, is that Butch has incredible starting line reactions. He can sometimes gain an advantage known as a hole shot right at the start that is awful tough to beat once you get down track. And it is Bob Glidden out first. On Leal, he gets the advantage off the starting line, runs the quicker elapsed time, 7.37 seconds at 187 miles an hour. As we watch again, you see the Ford move first. That was the advantage he picked up at the start. He applied the horsepower of that Ford to the ground, and by the time they reached the finish line, by more than a car length, Bob Glidden was ahead and winning an incredible 58th NHRA National Event title.
Well, how do you cap off a perfect day if you're Bob Glidden? A 7:37, you've won the race and maybe enough points to be world champion again.
I just made this statement to you, Steve. I don't believe there's any way Butch can muster up enough points to catch us in the Winston points chase. You know, our goal was to come here and try to win another race on Billy's track, and by gosh, we did it.
Tell me about the race itself.
I'll tell you, Butch, he was confident. He was sure that he was going to win this race. And we felt like we had a pretty good shot at it also. We had a little bit of a performance edge. We played our little games at the tree, and I think it was a pretty good lead. Both cars
sure was.
Might have left about the same.
Well, congratulations to the entire Glidden family. Another outstanding job.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Okay. Bob Glidden, the most incredible drag racer of them all.
Steve, what a day for our Pro Stock champion, Bob Glidden. Here's Ed McCulloch in the finals of Funny Car Eliminator. McCulloch, by virtue of his outstanding performance in the previous round, has the choice of lanes over Dallas, Texas, Raymond Beadle. Beadle has got the support of the fans as this huge crowd that is jammed into the Texas Motorplex, all on their feet, watching intently as these 2,500 horsepower creations battle it out for the Chief Auto Parts title. And McCulloch has got a great run. McCulloch wins the race and sets a new national record in the process. His elapsed time, 5.41 seconds to defeat Raymond Beadle, backs up his 5:36 set in qualifying. As we watch again, it was a good start for both drivers. McCulloch and Beadle came off the starting line together, but by the time they approached the finish, 1,320 feet away, Ed McCulloch was the winner.
When you've had a season as tough as Ed the Ace McCulloch, winless all year long, to pick this one off on the world's best track and set the record, you backed it up at 5:41. You are the quickest of them all.
All right, Steve-O. You wouldn't even give me a clue.
No, not till you get that helmet off.
Let me tell you, this is great. I mean, we went through the guys today. This is what drag racing's all about.
Little kiss from Raymond Beadle.
Raymond.
I don't know if that's a reward or not. You two have been best buddies for a long time.
Years and years. We go back a long ways.
You're thrilled.
I'm thrilled to death. Bernie Federley, our crew chief, Corey Lee, our entire crew. Jason, this one's for you, son. He couldn't be here at this race. I'm glad we won it. I'm tickled to death. I'm thrilled.
On the starting line, Eddie Hill sits patiently waiting for the word to start the engines for the finals in Top Fuel Eliminator. Coming up next. At the Texas Motorplex, never before have two cars this quick faced each other in the final round or any round of an NHRA championship event. In the lane nearest the camera is the new national speed record holder. At over 285 miles an hour, Eddie Hill has won the hearts of these tens of thousands of fans. But then again, so has Darrell Gwynn. Gwynn holds the elapsed time record. He's got that advantage, though, by only 0.03 of a second. That's how much quicker he was than Eddie Hill in the semifinal round, and that 0.03 of a second earned him the choice of lanes in this final. These two cars are somewhat similar in their design. They both utilize the small front wheel and tire combination. Darrell Gwynn, at one point earlier this season, had a canopy over the cockpit, but he took that off, and along with a number of other items in an effort to cut the weight on this car. Probably the single most important change the Gwynn family has made in this race car is to revert back to the engine combination they used just a year ago when Darrell Gwynn was in the final round, losing to Don Garland. The pre-race burnouts and all of the preparation is over. Both drivers now concentrating on the start, which is all important. For Eddie Hill, the most incredible day of performances of his long career as a drag and boat racer. They're staged. And Darrell Gwynn wins it and sets a new national record. 5.08 seconds, his speed 280 miles an hour. Eddie Hill's performance falls off. The best he could muster, a 5:25 at only 259. Jerry Gwynn, the happiest dad on the grounds today, as we watch again, his son Darrell gets an advantage off the starting line that he does not relinquish. By the time the racers had reached half track, it was all over for Eddie Hill. Darrell Gwynn, by several car lengths, the champion.
The third time this year we've had the pleasure of meeting this young man in this situation. Darrell Gwynn, you have won the Chief Auto Parts Nationals, a new national record, 5:08.
It's about time I won this race. I've only been here twice and felt like I've been here for 10 years. This place has abused me, you know.
You've always run well, but had bad luck.
That's right. We've run well. We've set a bunch of records here, and this really feels good, I'll tell you what.
Do you feel like you're back in the hunt for the World Championship?
Well, I don't know. I've raised a lot of eyebrows here, blowing the dust off this old motor, and I tell you, the crew's excited. I owe it to them. It's a great weekend for us, I'll tell you what.
I couldn't have said it better. Darrell Gwynn, top fuel champion.
Our congratulations to all the champions at this Chief Auto Parts National. Don't forget, here's a program reminder for you coming up on November the 9th, the first air date for the Winston Finals from Pomona, California. You can see all the action right here on ESPN. Be sure to join us. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from the Texas Motorplex. The NHRA Chief Auto Parts Nationals have been brought to you by Goodyear, the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. And by Fram Bendix Autolite, all quality products of Allied Automotive. Coverage of the NHRA Chief Auto Parts Nationals has been a presentation of Diamond P Sports.